What do the world's most successful people do for personal development? What's a level 10 in my health, in my finances? What's a level 10 for my happiness, for adventure, for joy? That's how that started. I did this wheel of life where I assessed my level of success in each area and then set these level 10 goals.
Hal Erod is the best-selling author of Miracle Morning and one of the highest-rated keynote speakers in America.
Subtitled The Not So Obvious Secret, guaranteed to transform your life before 8 a.m.
I've only come to realize just how important momentum is. The idea of being able to scroll a snowball down the mountain, and that applies to so many things, right?
Energy and motivation aren't waiting in the wings that are going to come pick you up off the couch and take you to the gym or whatever, but
How? Glad we can make this happen, man. Glad to have you on here.
Sean, man, I think I had rescheduled like twice, dude. So thank you for being patient and sticking with me. And I'm glad that we're finally here.
No, it's gonna be worth the conversation. I was excited to have you on. And we were just talking about how crazy the book is blowing up, all different parts around the world. You've got Brazil out of all places, which is where I'm at now. That's blowing up with, you're a celebrity here pretty much here. I'd love to know, like, what is it about? And you've written other books before as well, but obviously the Miracle Morning, it just seems it's taken off. What is it about people wanting to optimize their morning? What is it you think that piques their interest so much? Is it that people have a tough time with it, or is there some appeal to it that you kind of struck?
No, that's an interesting question, and I think there's kind of a loaded answer because. First and foremost, the way the Miracle Morning has spread is word of mouth. So it's actually not that somebody's like looking for a book on morning routines. It's that their friend said, "Hey, this book changed my life. You've got to read it." And more often than not, they're probably, the response is, "I'm not a morning person, dude. Like, that's not for me." And then the person would say, "No, I know, neither was I." Right? Because when I wrote when I created the Miracle Morning in my own life in 2008, I wasn't a morning person. But I kept coming across, I was like in desperation mode. I had lost over half of my income. My house was being foreclosed on. Like I was really at a really low point in my life. And I heard a quote from Jim Rohn that was the catalyst that changed everything. Jim Rohn said, your level of success, and this is true, I believe, in every area of life, not just like your professional success, but your marriage, your mental health, your physical health, your finances, right? So he said, your level of success will rarely exceed your level of personal development. And that was the quote that like the light bulb moment for me. And I went, oh, the reason I'm not where I want to be success-wise in my every area of my life is I don't have a daily personal development habit, ritual, routine that enables me to continuously become the person that I need to be to level up and create the success I want in my life. And so I went on this quest online, Googling what do the world's most successful people do for personal development. And I was looking for one or two practices, and I ended up with a list of 6 practices, and we can unpack those. But it's the 6 most timeless, proven personal development practices that the world's most successful people have sworn by for centuries. Right? I didn't invent these, and I'm looking at my schedule, going, well, man, I'd love to do these, but I'm busy. Like when? And I'm looking, okay, maybe at night after work. And I go, man, at the end of the day, my brain is done. Like I'm fried. I don't have that's not the optimal time for me to engage in my personal development. So I'm looking at, like middle of the day, I'm working. I don't, and then it went morning and I'm resisting. I'm like, nah, not the morning. But I kept coming across articles during my search of the power of morning routines, of, early rising for success and on and on. And it's like, it almost called a God thing. It was like, Hal, you're going to wake up an hour earlier and do these 6 practices. And I woke up the next morning, I did all 6. And 2 months later, I had doubled my income at the height of the 2008 Great Recession. Like the economy tanked. And for 6 months, I tanked with it. But then when I committed to this routine in the morning, right? And it sounds like hyperbole, but it's not. I mean, 2 months later, I doubled my income. I started training for an ultra marathon and my depression went away. And that's when I went, if this changed my life and I wasn't a morning person, and it changed all of my clients, I had taught it to them at that point and working for them, I have a responsibility to share this with the world. How am I going to do that? I guess I got to write a book, and the rest is kind of history, as they say.
That's wild. You doubled your income, especially in one of the hardest financial times that we've had in the last couple of decades. What can you attribute? What was it about your morning routine that changed? Like, how can you attribute that to your income doubling? Was it other circumstances to it, or was it really the potential, like the particular routines that you had that actually attributed to that?
I will get totally granular here. Like I don't want to sugarcoat like, oh, I just doubled the income or whatever. And
Yeah.
no, I'll tell you exactly how I did it and how the morning routine played a part. Or really what, I mean, it was the core of it. And here's what it was. So I had just hit Hall of Fame with the company that I had been with for 6 years in 2005, I think, at the end of 2005. And then as I was leaving that company, I'm like, all right, I want to be an entrepreneur. What am I qualified to do? I'm like, well, all I've gotten really good at is in sales. I did Hall of Fame with the sales company, Cutco. And I thought, I'm really just qualified to coach other Cutco representatives and maybe other salespeople on how I did, what I did that they could apply to their own business. So I launched a coaching business, and within a year and a half, I think it was up to $80,000 a year in income, and it was growing. So that's when the recession hit. And I lost over half of my clients because they simply, the trickle down effect, they're like, hey, dude, the economy is screwing us. Like we're not making any money. We can't afford coaching anymore. So I lost over half my coaching clients. And then, and that's depressing, man. When like I couldn't pay my bills, I finally stopped paying the mortgage, I'm losing my house. And when you're in a really bad mental and emotional state, it is hard to thrive in anything, right? Your health, your finances, etc. So my very first miracle morning, the day before, I was in depression. I was like, I'm scared. I'm going to have to move back in with my parents here in the next few months. I'm 50 grand in credit card debt. Before that first miracle morning, before the economy crashed, I was debt free, paid off the credit cards every month. I was a Dave Ramsey, fan and student. Well, now I'm 50 grand in credit card debt, $52,000, losing my house. My body fat percentage had tripled because I canceled the gym membership. I was eating shitty food. And I wake up actually the night before as I'm going to bed. I'm like, wait, if I wake up tomorrow morning and I do these 6 practices, and by the way, for reference, everybody, because I'll reference these throughout, these are known as the savers now. So in the Miracle Morning book, these 6 practices are an acronym, SAVERS. The first S is for silence. It's starting the day with prayer, meditation, breath work, right? Lowering your cortisol levels, getting blood and oxygen to your brain, thinking clearer, giving you more energy and clarity. Number 2, the A is for affirmations. And if we had time, I'd love to really dive into that, because affirmations, I believe, are the most misunderstood form of personal development because they've been taught in this really ineffective, cheesy way. I want to be rich, so I'm going to say, I am a millionaire, or I am like. So anyway, we can unpack that and go. I'll give you some details. But the V is for visualization. And if you look at the world's greatest athletes, right, the greatest performers in the world are known for visualizing before they step on the court or the field. They mentally rehearse showing up in a peak state so that when it's time to show up, they've already rehearsed it. They've already been there in their mind, body, and spirit. And so we can do that showing up at work. We can do that showing up for our family. We can do that showing up for ourselves in our best, using that practice. The E in Sabers is for exercise. And you don't have to go to the gym in the morning, but again, moving your body for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, jumping jacks, push-up, right? Again, it wakes up your lymphatic system. It gets blood and oxygen to your brain. You have more energy, you have more mental clarity. The R in Sabers is for reading. And we're all one, and that's a definite part of how I turned my financial situation around, was the books that I chose right away. And then the final S is for scribing, which is a fancy word for writing or journaling, and the clarity that you gain when you get your plethora of thoughts out of your head and onto a piece of paper, right, or the computer. It forces you to gain clarity, because you can be thinking one thought and then another and then another and then another and then another, but you can't write that way, right? You have to write in a coherence, so it forces you to gain clarity. So those 6 practices make up the Miracle Morning. You do them in 6 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes. Here's what I did. In 2008, my only objective was I need to increase my income. And I always set big goals. So I go, my goal is I've lost over half my income. So I want to double my income and get back to where I was before the economy crashed. So that was the goal.
Yep.
So what I did is, first and foremost, I bought a book. I was a coach. And so I started Googling what are the best books to get more coaching clients. I came across the book Book Yourself Solid by Michael Port. So first thing, ordered it on Amazon. Okay, great. That's in the mail. And then every day, what I did is I took what I was learning in that book. And if you go through those savers, I use silence to calm my nervous system, lower my cortisol, and to center myself for the rest of my savers. Then I used affirmations to affirm 3 things. Number 1, what I was committed to. I'm committed to doubling my income by the end of this year. No matter what, there is no other option. And whatever we commit to in life is what we move toward, right? If you're not committed, you're not going to do anything that you're right unless you're committed. So when you affirm it every day, you acclimate to that possibility. It becomes your reality. Number 2, I affirmed why it was a must for me. I had a list of a few reasons of why is it important? Why is it a must? Why am I willing to do whatever it takes to follow through with that commitment? And then number 3, which actions will I take and when will I take them? And by the way, that's the Miracle Morning Affirmations formula in a nutshell right there. But that third step, it was, okay, you can't just know what you're committed to and know why. You've got to know what you're going to do and when you have time allotted to do it. So for me, it's I'm going to read Book Yourself Solid every morning during my Miracle Morning. And then I'm going to schedule 1 hour every single day, Monday through Friday, to implement what I learned in the book. And how often do we read a book and do nothing with the information? We read the book, we're like, oh man, I love this book. I've never thought about all these cool ideas. And then you don't do anything with it. And then you finish that book and you're like, cool, checked it off. Now I'm proud of myself because I finished a book and I'm going to read another book. It's like, whoa, dude, did you schedule time to integrate what you were reading into your life to see a result? Most people don't do it. So for me, that was my commitment on my affirmations. Then I visualized myself showing up for the day with my clients, with prospects in a peak state with confidence and clarity so that I could be powerful in how I showed up. Then I exercised, right? Got my energy going. Then I obviously read that book by Michael Port, and then I would journal. I would journal, number 1, what's great about my life, or what do I have to be grateful for? Because at that time in my life, I was focusing on what Ben Hardy would call the gap. Like, I am not where I want to be. I am struggling. I am losing my house. I used to be successful. This is so scary. I don't know what to do. That didn't serve me. That didn't build my confidence. So every day I would write down, what do I be grateful for? Yes, I've got challenges, but what can I rest in and just put my hand on my heart and close my eyes and smile and feel deeply grateful for my life. And then I looked at my to-do list for the day and it always had, 10, 15 things on it. And I asked myself, okay, I'm committed to doubling my income. On this to-do list, what are the things, starting with the number 1 priority and then number 2 and then number 3, that are in alignment with me doubling my income? Because very often we just keep busy. We check off things on our to-do list that make us feel like we're doing something, but I checked my email. I reorganized my office. I read a book. It's like I was clear at the end of the Miracle Morning with that scribing. What am I going to do to achieve the results? And not rocket science. When you combine the 6 most timeless, proven personal development practices, and then you align them toward a singular goal, which for me in 2008 was double my income. Now, I thought it would happen in 6 to 12 months. It happened faster than I imagined. It happened in less than 2 months. And it's funny, that's why I call it the Miracle Morning. I met my wife in the hallway of our apartment or of our house. And I said, sweetheart, you'll never believe it. I just signed on 2 coaching clients today. She goes, congratulations. I go, no, it's monumental. We just hit our goal that I set 2 months ago of doubling our income in 6 to 12 months, but we did it in 2 months. And she gave me a big hug and a kiss. I go, it's all because of this morning routine, which had no name. It wasn't a book idea, Sean. And she goes, it feels like a miracle. And she goes, it's your Miracle Morning. I go, I like that, Miracle Morning. So when my schedule is Miracle Morning, then I taught it to my coaching clients a few weeks later. They came back and said, oh my gosh, it's working for me. And that's when I decided I had to write the book. So that's how I doubled my income in a very, if all I did was read the book and apply it, it might have worked. But when I read the book, I apply it. I use meditation to, get in a great state. I affirm my commitment, why I'm committed, what I'm going to do. I visualize myself doing the things I just affirmed. I exercise to generate energy. And then I journal my clarity of priorities and how can you fail? How can you fail when you're aligning all 6 of those practices with the singular objective in your life?
That's powerful. That's powerful. And it's great to see that this is something that you actually did. A lot of people, there's a lot of people that kind of preach, but then they don't really have results for themselves, right? But the fact that this idea spawned out of a result and like a monumental result that you got, I think that speaks a lot of volumes. So what happens now? Like, so you reached this goal. Is the purpose of the Savers routine that you now set a new goal afterwards? So you've hit this double income after 2 months. Did you go and said, okay, now I want to double my income again? Or how did you approach that? Because we hit our goals and then so oftentimes we don't really set clear goals after that because we were so fixated on this one goal and then now nothing really matters. We lose the momentum. What have you done after that?
I love that question. Here's the way that I did it. So when I heard that Jim Rohn quote that, really gave birth to the Miracle Morning, right? Like that was, that quote is what made me go, I've got to increase my personal development so that I can be more successful. I quantified it. So meaning this, the quote from Jim Rohn that I heard that morning on it from this audio, your level of success will rarely exceed your level of personal development. So I immediately quantified it. I said, okay, well, what level of success do I want in every area of my life on a scale of 1 to 10? And if you're listening to this or watching this, ask yourself that question. What level of success, fulfillment, meaning, however you define it, do you want in every area of your life on a scale of 1 to 10? And Sean, I believe that we all want level 10. Like I've never met anyone. I believe there's an innate human drive and desire to self-actualize and fulfill our potential. I've never met anyone that's like, well, I don't want to be too happy. Like, I just want to be a 7. I don't want too much financial freedom, or too much money. I just want to be like a 6. No, we want to be as happy as we can be, as healthy as we can be, as harmonious in our relationships, as financially secure. So I realized I want level 10 success in every area. And then when I asked myself, okay, well, if my level of success won't exceed my level of personal development, what's my level of personal development? And again, if you're watching or listening to this, I encourage you to ask yourself that question. And let me give you a little more context to consider it. To me, the way I would define my level of personal development, I can assess that based on the rituals, habits, and or routines that I have in my daily life that are geared towards personal development, self-improvement, personal growth, right? And at that time in my life, 2008, I was like a 2 or a 3. Like I was in such scarcity mode that I had no time to grow and learn and read and journal. And there was no time for that, I thought. And so what I got obsessed with was what I just called it level 10 success. And I asked myself, what's level 10 success in each area of my life? So level 10 finances, what is that for me? And I go, it's doubling my income and getting back to where I was. And then I'm sure then a new level 10 will emerge, right? Then I'll be able to see beyond that. But right now it's that. I asked myself, what's my level 10 fitness? Because I had gotten into, I used to be in really athletic, lifted weights. And in those, 6 months, I just was out of shape. And I had a friend that had two friends that had just run an ultra marathon together. And I hate running. I outside of the mandatory mile in PE class, I never would run. And I thought, man, a level 10, because I know it's possible because these guys weren't runners, my buddy John and my buddy Jamie. I go, but they did it. They had to walk, their feet were bleeding, right? Sounds unpleasant. But keep in mind, Sean, as I started doing the Miracle Morning, I got what's the word? Motivated, but it was almost addicted to my full potential. I'm like, what's possible now? Right? I doubled my income in 6 or 2 months. What else could I do? So I was on fire, and I went, I'm going to commit to run a 52-mile ultra marathon. And before I even looked into what that entailed, I went onto my Facebook page and I said, hey, friends and family, I give you my word. I need accountability to do this because it scares the heck out of me. So I'm giving you my word that I'm going to train for and complete a 52-mile ultra marathon. And I had a deadline because I supported this charity at the time called Front Row Foundation. And every year at the Atlantic City Marathon, they had a run. And so I committed to do the marathon to raise money for the charity. So I had 6 months to train. I ran 500 miles during those 6 months. And then for the training, and then I ended up doing 52 miles in one day. And so here's the point. I looked at every area of my life and I asked, what's a level 10 in my relationship? What's a level 10 in my health, in my finances? What's a level 10 for my happiness, for adventure, for joy, recreation, like just fun? What's level 10 in every area of my life? And then my miracle morning, I aligned my affirmation. So I didn't just have one affirmation. I had 8 areas of my life that I was focused on. If you've ever done the wheel of life, that's how that started. I did this wheel of life where I assessed my level of success in each area.
What
and
are
then
the
set
areas
these level
again?
10 goals.
Just to be clear, I thought that was just something you did personally, but there's actual framework for it, a wheel of life.
Yeah, and it's in the book, and I'm trying to remember. I haven't done this in a while. So personal development is one, right? Where you're measuring on a scale of 1 to 10, how's my personal development? And I was at a 9. You know, I was doing this miracle morning every day. Finances is one. Health is one. Fitness is one. And those are different. You could combine them if you want, and all these are fluid, by the way, in terms of like the categories. I've seen different wheels of life with different categories, some of them combining health and fitness. But for me, health is like, what am I eating, right? How am I treating my body? Fitness is like, how am I challenging myself to do things I've never done physically, right? And for a lot of people, it's losing. I want to lose 20 pounds. So we got personal development, finances, health, fitness, relationships. And again, you can divide that up. You could have romantic relationship. You could have parenting. And I have that now. I have my marriage as its own category. My parents, me as a parent with my kids, that's its own category, right? So travel and leisure is what some people will put, or recreation. So these are just, again, it's really, you can pick, you don't have to do all 8 to 10 areas of your life. That's another thing. Some wheel of life diagrams have 10 areas and some have 8. So again, there is no succinct, this is how it has to be done. But that was it. I started setting these goals, level 10 goals in every area of my life. And I'll tell you, a good way to answer this question to put a cap on it is, somebody asked me a couple of years ago in an interview. They said, Hal, you created the Miracle Morning when you were at rock bottom and you were desperate to turn your life around, your financial situation. And it worked. And they said, why do you still do the Miracle Morning? You now have, sold millions of books and you're, living your dreams, it seems. Why are you still doing the Miracle Morning? And it was like a head scratcher for me at first. I'm like, I've never been asked that. And I've never really asked myself that in that way. And the answer was obvious to me. It was like, because human potential is limitless. And to me, I read a book during my Miracle Morning. It was like the second or third book I read during the Miracle Morning when I first started it. It was called The Rhythm of Life by Matthew Kelly. And in that book, he says the purpose of life is to become the best version of yourself. It is a purpose that gets you up in the morning, that gives you clarity whenever you're making a decision. Should I eat this unhealthy food or this healthy food? Which helps me become the best version of myself? Should I go to the gym or should I make an excuse to skip it today? Which helps me become the best version of myself? Should I watch this, horror movie or read this, book on personal growth, right? And so, and I'm not perfect at it. Nobody, I don't think, needs to be, but that really resonated with me. And so ever since 2008, when I read that book, it was like, I want to become the best version of myself, the best husband that I can be, the best parent that I can be, the best son, the best brother, and I want to achieve level 10 success in my health and my finances and, every area of life. So that's what keeps driving me, is I'm always going, what is level 10 for me now? And it keeps evolving. Once you hit level 10, well, now level 10 just simply gets further. It's not like you can't reach your potential. Like when you're on your deathbed, you could still learn more, do more, grow more, right? So it's this never ending pursuit, but it's not, this is an important distinction. Last thing I'll say, it's important that you're not doing it from a place of, I'm not good enough, so I have to do these things to become worthy of love or to feel good about myself. No, we are all amazing. We are all extraordinary. We are all miracles. We are all just as worthy, deserving, and capable of achieving and experiencing everything we want in life as any other person on the planet. And we have limitless potential. So what else could I do? It's from a place of excitement and joy and love and enthusiasm and optimism, not from a place of scarcity. It's a really important distinction.
What is the distinction? Just before I move on, what is the distinction of why, if someone comes from a place of scarcity or limited mindset, why isn't the miracle morning going to be as effective, or it's not going to be as powerful?
And
What's the distinction there?
yeah, you're a great interviewer. That's such a great question. I now would, I guess, correct what I said, which is it's effective in both ways. And I'm looking at my own life. When I created the Miracle Morning, and initially I was in scarcity mode, right? And it got me out of it. So I think what I mean is it's not, even if you're in scarcity mode, you need to acknowledge that you are, in fact, it's my foundational affirmation. Doesn't follow those 3 steps. I created this in 2008. I am just as worthy, deserving, and capable of blank. And for me, I apply whatever I'm working towards, whatever my goal is. And it could be the generic version is, I'm just as worthy, deserving, and capable of achieving, creating, experiencing anything and everything I want in my life as much as any other person on earth. Because the problem is we often create this separation of, people that have more than I do, more success, more fulfillment, a better life, a better family, they're better than me. They're more capable than me. They're more deserving. I'm a piece of shit. I don't deserve, right? Like, coming from that place is very disempowering. So I think scarcity is not even, I didn't use the right word there. It's coming from a place of disempowerment that I'm trying to get somebody to avoid, right? So when I started Miracle Morning on day 1, even though I was in scarcity mode, I immediately was like, I can do this Miracle Morning. If I started, because that was my very first Miracle Morning. When it ended, I was like, dude, if I start every day like this, with this much clarity and energy and motivation and discipline, like, I can't fail. It is only a matter of time as I continue to learn, grow, improve, evolve. It's only a matter of time before I continue becoming the person that I need to be to turn my financial situation around and more. So, I mean, I went into my first Miracle Morning in scarcity mode, fear mode. By the end of that Miracle Morning, I was like, this is the thing that's going to change everything.
Yeah. And honestly, I think the reason why I love this is I've only come to realize not too long ago just how important momentum is. The idea of being able to like roll a snowball down the mountain instead of restarting and then having to work yourself up again. And that applies to so many things, right? Whether it's your finances or your business growth or your relationships, like that momentum makes it so much easier for you on your 3rd week or your 3rd month or your 3rd year of doing these routines. And I love that. I was reading the testimony or the foreword by Robert Kiyosaki on your book. And I think one thing that resonates with this book and the reason why it's such mass appeal, this guy, Naval Ravikant, he has this quote, which is, a calm mind, a fit body, and a house full of love can't be bought. It has to be earned. And it's this idea that no matter how successful you are, I think like Marcus Aurelius talks about how he himself as a Roman emperor had such a difficult time getting out of bed, no matter how successful he was. And it's this idea that no matter how successful you are or how much power you have, you still have to earn the things that are important in your life, right? You can't just do it once and then forget about it. It's not a set it and forget it thing. Every day you have to do the hard work.
It's just like exercise, right? Yeah, that analogy of exercise, right? Like, you can't go to the gym once and be like, great, I'm in shape now, right? Or even you go to the gym for 6 months, if you stop going to the gym, and in the Miracle Morning, it's essentially exercise for your mind, body, and spirit. Not to mention, mind, body, and spirit, and emotions. For me, I think one of the most important parts of the Miracle Morning, I love that you said momentum, is that when you start your day with those attributes I just mentioned, clarity, discipline, focus, growth, right? You are literally starting your day in a peak physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state. You are generating the momentum that propels you through the rest of the day.
Yeah. I'm curious for people that maybe haven't done these routines before. They don't have a morning routine. They haven't really set goals properly. What is a way for them to set the right goals for when they're doing the Savers routine that can give them some momentum? Because I think some people set goals that are extremely high and they kind of lose motivation or they never get the momentum
Totally.
going. So what are some tips that allows people to get off the right start and have that momentum building?
I think the first thing is not to think like you don't even have to have a goal to start. Your goal will often emerge when you're engaged in practices like these, right? Meditate. We'll just use silence, the first S in Sabres, as an example. Some of my best ideas come when I'm meditating. I'm not trying to think. In fact, I find that if I try to think of something and I force my way to try to figure out, a goal or a topic that I want to talk about on podcast, like my mind goes blank. It's either my best ideas come either in a period of meditation, prayer, or a bike ride. So I go for a bike ride usually two to 4 days, about 3 days on average, 3 days a week. I go for a 10-minute bike ride around our neighborhood. I almost always get my best ideas, and especially the ones where if I have been trying to figure out, well, what should I title this podcast, or what should I write this next chapter about in my next book or whatever. And I have writer's block. I can't think, 3 minutes into my bike ride, I'm like, oh, got it. And I wasn't trying to think about it. I was like, wow, these trees are gorgeous. Wow, I'm breathing oxygen. Wow, look at the sun shining. God, thank you for this day. Thank you for these legs that propel me on this bike. Oh, dude, I know what I'm going to call it. Right? Like, it just comes out of nowhere. So I mean, that, not the exact answer that you're looking, or not the answer you might expect, but yeah, to me, it's often your best ideas. That's why they come in the shower. They come when you're falling asleep at night. And that's why silence is so important, is because it used to be baked into our lives, but our smartphones have robbed most of us from the gift of silence. You used to be standing in line, riding in a car, riding a bus, like whatever, or just waking up in the morning. You didn't have a digital device within your reach that immediately could distract you and close down those pathways to creativity, to higher consciousness, because you're distracted now with a phone, with your email, with whatever. And so because those moments are not in our lives like they used to be, starting your day with a period of peaceful and purposeful silence, right? You're not doing it just to sit there in silence. You're doing that to calm your mind or to gain clarity or some other benefit.
Yeah. One thing that's helped me and that I've kind of learned is actually through this book called Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg. I don't know.
You love it.
Yeah. And he really preaches the idea of just setting these tiny things. Like if you want to be someone that flosses, start with one tooth, right? The hardest part about going to a gym is getting there. It's not actually lifting the weights and doing the workout. And it's kind of this idea of tricking your brain to not to, like, once your brain is in motion, it wants to continue that motion. It wants to stay consistent with it. It's just that friction of starting in the first place. So I guess for people that are setting goals, it could be something that's very small, like maybe flossing their tooth or going to the gym every day for a week or something. And then that allows your habits to take over. I don't know, it was like 66 days to build a habit or 21 days. People have these arguments like how many days it actually takes to build a habit. I'm not sure. But there's something to that, I feel, just gaining the momentum you need to make it automatic. You don't have to think about it even after a while.
Yeah, I learned that from John Maxwell in his book Failing Forward. And he calls it, the strategy is act your way into feeling. Right? Meaning, he says most of us are sitting back and we're going, man, if only I had more energy or more motivation. He goes, well, it doesn't come in, energy and motivation aren't waiting in the wings that are going to come pick you up off the couch and take you to the gym or whatever. He said, but, or at least the example I use is, if you want to get in the best shape of your life, you don't have to think about the 100 days of exercise ahead of you. You literally need to get in the car with your gym bag or dressed in your gym clothes and set your GPS to the gym, and don't think of anything beyond that. Because it takes very little discipline to put on gym clothes and get in the car and set your GPS. It takes almost no discipline. It's easy. Anybody can do it. But if you do that, where are you going to go? You're probably going to drive to the gym. And if you turn on some, pumped up music in the car, your energy is going to go up. Roll down the windows, right? Then you walk into the gym and the energy is palpable. There's people on the treadmills and lifting weights and the music's blaring, right? And So you're like, I'm here. I might as well go like work out for 10 minutes, right? I go do a walk on the treadmill, something easy. Then afterwards, you feel proud of yourself. And now you're much more likely to get in the car and set your GPS to go to the gym the next day. And all of a sudden, 100 days from now, you're in the best shape of your life. You look back, you're like, dude, all I did was commit to getting dressed in gym clothes and getting in my car and setting my GPS to the gym. That's it. And now I've lost X amount of pounds. I'm in the best shape of my life, etc. And that's why at the end, whenever I give a speech, the Miracle Morning is my keynote message at almost every company I speak for. And I used to be this all or nothing mentality like a lot of us are. And at the end, I'd be like, all right, wake up an hour earlier, do all 6 of the savers. And then a really good friend of mine, Brianna Greenspan, she's one of my Miracle Morning co-authors. She wrote did the coloring book, but she was hearing me give a speech. She goes, Hal, I think you need to adjust your speech. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, not everybody has, like, people in the audience, some of them with like no motivation right now. And you're saying wake up an hour earlier and you're setting them for failure. I'm like, okay. She goes, why don't you tell them to wake up 10 minutes earlier and do one of the savers and do that for a few days and see how it goes. And if they want to, add more. And then what ended up happening was it evolved into like now when I end my speech, and if you're listening to this right now, you can do the same thing, which is wake up 10 minutes earlier and do one of the savers. And if you haven't read the Miracle Morning book, you can get that book on Amazon, Audible, Kindle, whatever, and all you have to do is wake up early and start reading the book. And then a few days later, you'll get to the chapter on silence, and you can add silence into your Miracle Morning. So the next day you're going to do maybe 5 minutes of reading and 5 minutes of prayer, right? And then a day or two later, you get to the chapter on affirmations and you add that. So essentially, you gradually build a Miracle Morning one day at a time, one practice at a time, rather than jumping in with both feet. And you end up getting addicted because you feel so much better, right? And that's, don't take my word for it. I mean, there's over 1 million people around the world that have done this consistently over a long period of time. So yeah, I love that you talked about tiny habits, because that is one of the biggest things that stops us from taking our first step is we're overthinking and worrying about the next 20 steps after that. And that feels overwhelming. Just take the first step, and that will produce the energy, the motivation, the momentum, as you said, Sean, to take step 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I've found with all or nothing mentality, particularly for people that have these habits that they're trying to build, is that they'll be on day 100, even day 300 of learning a language or stopping smoking or not drinking, whatever it might be for them, cutting out sugar, and then they miss one day.
Yes.
Right? They get influenced by a friend, they're at a party, or they are tired, they're stressed out, and they resist. They couldn't resist for this one day, one little slip up. And then all of a sudden they're in this negative loophole. They lose all self-respect for themselves. They go back to their habits, of their bad habits that they had before. And all of the work that they've done before, it goes out the door. And I think this point that you made is so important, because just because you fall down once or you slip up once, you've done 300 days of work, 100 days of work before that. And you can't let that go. You have to just come back up. You can't let that fault you into your old self, right?
Yeah. One of my, I don't know if you call it a mantra, but whenever I do that, where I miss a day, and by the way, I've missed lots of Miracle Mornings. I was at a concert late or went on vacation or whatever. Although I will say I've actually loved doing the Miracle Morning on vacation, because it's just like, it's like a vacation Miracle Morning. Like I don't have any responsibilities. I can wake up a little later than normal, right? But I still do Miracle Morning. Yeah, exactly. I've done that too. Where was I going with that? My mantra or my reminder is never let one bad day turn into 2. And so it's just like, okay, I screwed up today. I didn't follow through. I'm not going to beat myself up. I don't have to be perfect, but I'm not going to let one bad day turn into 2. I'm going to do it tomorrow. And then some people go, well, hey, I've fallen off my Miracle Morning for the last 3 weeks. Like I'm way past one bad day. You go, great. Never let 21 bad days turn into 22. Like you can adjust the number. It's just simply a decision that it's never too late to do the right thing, right? It doesn't matter what you did the last day, week, month, year, decade. It's never too late to make today the day that you go, all right, I'm going to be better today. I'm going to do better. I'm going to show up at my best, and I'm going to see what I'm capable of.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you mentioned, one question that I have around for you particularly when you started the Savers is I think you look at these, silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, scribing. Everybody has stuff that they're more inclined to do. So, for example, like I've always been someone that exercises a lot or is into reading. But for me, particularly like affirmations and visualization, it's something that I feel is so powerful. I just never really tapped into it. And maybe it just wasn't really part of my routine, but you hear all of these top performers and how impactful it was for you. What was one of these? Like, what was something that was one of the most impactful things that wasn't in your arsenal before that really took it over the next level for you?
Yeah, so for me, it was affirmations, and it was I mentioned it briefly, and I'll unpack this a little bit more. But when I first started affirmations, I Googled like self or personal development affirmation or something like that, and I found this affirmation from Think and Grow Rich. It's called the Self-Confidence Affirmation from the 1937 book Think and Grow Rich, and I read that every day, and it basically was. I don't remember the words. This was 14 years ago, longer. 16 years ago, but it was essentially helping you develop your self-confidence. And I needed that because after 6 months of not being able to sign a client and losing my income, like my confidence had really tanked. So that really helped me. And then I decided to test it. I went, okay, what's a limiting belief that I have a lot of evidence for? And it was, I have a terrible memory. Because I have brain damage. For those that don't know, when I was 20 years old, I was hit head on by a drunk driver at 70 miles per hour, and I was found dead at the scene. I was clinically dead for 6 minutes. My heart stopped. I stopped breathing. I was then in a coma for 6 days. I broke 11 bones, flatlined twice more in the coma. And when I came out of the coma, the doctors informed me, you have permanent brain damage. And I had almost no short-term memory. And it gradually got a little better, but never very good. And so I thought, man, that's a limiting belief that's based on physical reality. So I created an affirmation that said something along the lines of, my brain is a miraculous organism and it is capable of generating new cells and healing itself. And I had done a little research online to get so it was honestly what I was reading that was real. I said, so I am committed to believing and affirming that my brain and my memory and will improve day by day until I have, a fantastic memory, something like that. And I read that every day, day after day after day after day after day. And what happens is what you affirm becomes your reality. And let me say it another way, what you affirm repeatedly becomes your reality, right? Just like if you tell a kid he's stupid and you affirm that he's stupid, for when he's young, like he's going to believe that, right? Because he's hearing it over and over and over. And our subconscious doesn't know the difference between reality and vividly imagined reality. It's why when we wake up from a nightmare, we're sweating, we're breathing heavy, even though it wasn't real. Our subconscious does not know the difference. So what you affirm repeatedly becomes your reality. So I affirm that, and I remember the morning. A buddy of mine, Jeremy, he called me, and we were talking for a little bit, and he goes, "Hey, will you remind me?" Forgot what he said. Wanted to be reminded of. I go, "Jer." Normally I would say, Jer, I have brain damage. Like that was my default response. Whenever someone said, remind me or remember this or whatever, I was like, dude, I have brain damage from my car accident. I can't remember. And I remember that morning he goes, will you remind me? It was something like, remind me when I see you tonight or something. And I said, yeah, no problem. And we hung up the phone and I was like, whoa, dude. And keep in mind, that was 9 years after my car accident. So for 9 years, I had affirmed, I have a terrible memory. I can't remember things and it's not my fault. I was in this horrible car accident, right? And without even consciously being aware of it, I had reprogrammed my subconscious mind that I could remember something.
Wow.
And so without hesitation, I told him that was it. So that was a big one for me. And then affirmations, I started, I really believed in how powerful they were. So I started studying what are different ways to craft affirmations. And I think the biggest problem for people, there's two problems. We've been taught to either lie to ourselves. So for example, if somebody wants to be wealthy and they're broke, a well-meaning self-help guru may have told you, just affirm, I am wealthy. I am wealthy, right? But if you're affirming something that is not rooted in truth for you, you're going to create an internal conflict that is unhealthy, doesn't serve you. The second problem with affirmations is we've been taught to affirm using this flowery passive language that promises almost a magical result independent of any effort on our part. I'll give you an example. Most of us have heard of this one. I am a money magnet. Money flows to me effortlessly and in abundance. Now, that's not how money works, but a lot of people like that because it feels like, oh, I'm struggling financially, but thank God I'm a money magnet and money's going to flow to me effortlessly and in abundance. That feels really good to say that, but we're deluding ourselves because that is not how money works. No one became wealthy because they were a money magnet and money effortlessly came into their life, right? So those are the two problems with affirmations. And I think why a lot of people are disillusioned. They're like, dude, affirmations are goofy. They're lame. Like, I'm not going to affirm I'm amazing. I'm awesome. I'm wealthy. Here are 3 steps. I went over these earlier. I'm just going to tell you one more time for anybody worth writing down. Number 1, affirm what you're committed to. In life, you don't get what you want. You get what you're committed to. And again, even if on day 1, you're like, well, I say I'm committed to doubling my income, but I don't really believe it. I didn't believe it. But what you affirm repeatedly becomes your reality. You acclimate to that affirmation. It seeps into your subconscious and you go, oh, maybe I am committed. Yeah, I am committed, right? Like you become committed. Number 2, affirm why it is a must for you. Have anywhere from 1 to 3, 5 reasons max. Why are you committed to that? Why is it important to you? What will it do for you? How will it benefit you, your spouse, your kids, your friends, your family, humanity, right? And maybe it's just you. But get reasons that are so compelling that when you read them, you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. For example, 7 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer and given a 20% chance of surviving. I was very scared that I was going to die. That's an 80% chance I was going to die. And at that time, I had a 7-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son, and a wife, of course. So leaving them was terrifying. And I quickly realized, wait, I'm dwelling in fear every day. I'm what-ifing. What if I die? What if? That's not serving me. I need to utilize my miracle morning. And so I then, similar to how I applied all 6 of my savers to doubling my income in 2008, and it worked in 2 months, I applied all 6 of my savers to beating cancer. And the affirmation formula, number 1, what are you committed to? I'm committed to beating cancer and living to be 100 plus years old alongside Ursula and the kids. No matter what, there is no other option. And I affirmed that day after day after day after day. And within a few weeks, I wasn't afraid anymore. I had reaffirmed that commitment. There's no other option. I'm beating cancer. I'm not afraid. What would I be afraid of? There's nothing to be afraid of. I'm beating cancer. I'm committed. Number 2, I had 5 reasons. I'm committed to beating cancer for my parents because they already lost a child and they don't deserve to lose another one. I'm committed to beating cancer for Ursula, my wife, because I promised her forever and today. I'm committed to beating cancer for my kids, Sophie and Halston, because they need their daddy's love, guidance, and leadership, and I want to watch them grow up, and I want to be a grandparent to their kids someday. Number 4, I'm committed to beating cancer for the millions of people who are themselves battling cancer or some other disease and may not have the knowledge or resources that I've been blessed with, and it's my responsibility to beat cancer and help them on their journey. And the reason I read all those, Sean, is I want to give people real examples of like, that's what got me through the most difficult times, the times of fear, the times of doubt, the times when I was on chemotherapy and I was so sick that I felt like dying. But I'd read those affirmations and go, it's not even about me. I'm doing it for my kids, my wife, my parents, humanity. I got to keep going. I got to keep going. And that third step is, which actions will you take and when? And for me, I had a list of all of, yes, I will do allopathic medicine, Western medicine, but I will take full responsibility for combining with every holistic practice available to me. And I studied, I read books, I figured out, I hired doctors that were holistic doctors, and I was doing a lymphatic massage, 70 supplements a day, organic juicing, adjusted my diet, 3 coffee enemas a week. And then I used all of my savers. I was reading books on beating cancer naturally. I was meditating in a state of complete healing. I was visualizing being healed after chemo, walking my daughter down the aisle, right? I was journaling what I was grateful for to optimize my mental and emotional state. My miracle morning was focused on beating a cancer that I only had a 20% chance of surviving. And similar to 2008, it was roughly 2 months when the doctors told me, hey, we don't know how, but you are in remission.
Wow.
And so the Miracle Morning literally saved my life.
Dude, so I'm noticing two kind of interesting contrasts here when you've done the savers. The first you described about when you lost half of your income and you set this goal, but it seemed to me that was out of fear because you were losing money, you had to pay the
And
bills, and naturally you lost half of your income, right? That it's somewhat out of fear of surviving. And I think a lot of people set goals this
yep,
way of running away from something rather than trying to chase something
yep,
down. And then you just said the second example of this. I think you said that something like 20 to 30% chance of surviving. That was kind of your chances, which is ridiculous. And you seem to have this other side of more of an abundance way to set goals using the savers method this time, which is something bigger than yourself. What was it
mm,
about the second way that you set goals? Why should people set goals using an abundant way rather than a scarcity or limited way? Have you personally noticed a difference in terms of how you execute and how you take actions when you do that?
yeah, it's a really great question. And I think that, I don't know that there's a right or a wrong way. And I always fall back on, what I learned from Tony Robbins in my 20s, which is he said, we will do far more to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. Right. And so I think about that. And sometimes I think we will do more to avoid the pain of death or the pain, right? I mean, how many people finally clean up their diet and their lifestyle when they have cancer and they're facing death, right? So I honestly, I don't know. And there are conflicting, perspectives and opinions on right or wrong ways to do it. I think being self-aware, like if you're doing your Miracle Morning every day and sit and go, how do I feel about these goals? And put your hand on your heart and close your eyes during your silence and go, I'm really stressed about it. I feel, they make me feel stressed. How might I evolve beyond that? And then you might go right to scribing. By the way, the savers don't have to be done in any particular order. You do them in the order that serves you on any particular day. Some days I'm tired and I'm falling asleep during meditation. So I stand up and do jumping jacks and exercise, right? Some days I read first because my mind is like racing and I need to focus it on something that is someone else leading me through a way of thinking, right? So, but the point is you might go straight from a meditation and get clear on how do I feel about this goal? Is the state that this goal is producing within me or I'm allowing it to produce, is that serving me reaching the goal? And if it's not, you might then pull out a piece of paper or a blank Microsoft Word document, your journal, and just start free writing, right? Just literally coach yourself. Go, okay, this goal makes me feel stressed. Is that going to help me reach it? Maybe it is because it's getting me to take action every day because I want to avoid the fear of failing. Or you might say, no, you know what? It's making me feel discouraged and overwhelmed. How might I move? I love free writing. It's where you set a timer for 5 or 10 minutes or no timer at all. And you just write and you just write whatever comes to you. And it takes you down this, non-linear, but ultimately reaching a clarity focal point where you gain clarity. You finally get a solution to whatever you entered into that free writing session with.
Yeah, this idea of like running away from pain towards pleasure. There's a study actually that talks about how to incentivize or motivate employees, and they do tests around punishment versus reward and how that impacts their performance and how they show up for work and how they perform. And what they found was interesting, which was that in the short term, punishment tends to get the people that were not performing to a certain level, right? Because they're putting themselves into fire. They're potentially threatened to be fired. But what they found though is long term that leads to burnout. And it's actually finding a way to incentivize employees through rewards actually allows you to sustain the performance over the long haul. So it's the ability to kind of do a sprint versus a marathon versus a sprint. And I think there's some correlation to how we also feel burnt out with these internal goals that we have of running away from punishment. If we want to be able to build a life that's full of success over the long haul, I guess there's something to that of like building an abundance mindset, as you mentioned, to be in the long run.
I can reference what we talked about earlier, which is the example of, when you asked me like, okay, after you reach that goal of doubling your income, then what did you do? It was all aspirational. It was all right. Meaning it was like, what's level 10 look like in every area of my life? So it really is a paradigm shift where most of us, I think human nature is to do the minimum we need to do to get by. So I don't fault anybody when they're like, I'm not really achieving extraordinary results like I know I could be. I don't blame you, dude. We were our human beings. Think about this. Let's go back to the hunter-gatherer times, right? And I'm just theoretically imagining here. I wasn't there, and but like if you were a hunter and you had to hunt, and let's say you were in the bushes for a few days, you're trying to, and you kill the buffalo. There was no leaderboard. There was no financial metrics you were trying to achieve. You literally went and enjoyed that buffalo for the next few weeks or months with your fellow, villagers or your family. That's what we're designed to do. The minimum that we need to do to get by. But really, that sounds like it's a negative connotation. Think of it this way. We are designed to do the minimum we need to do to enjoy life, to survive, get by, but really enjoy life. It's like, hey, I achieved the thing I need to achieve. Now I'm going to enjoy it. It's our society that has conditioned us to get ahead, be more successful, make more money, right? We're on this, this treadmill. And so to me, it's a little bit of a balance where you go, I'm going to enjoy every moment of this journey, and I'm going to set goals that excite me. I'm going to set goals, not because I have to, but because I want to. And by the way, sometimes you got to set goals because you have to. I had to double my income, right? You're right. Or I was losing my house. I had to beat cancer, right? So again, it's a balance. It's not a right or a wrong. It's a yin and a yang. It's looking at all, it's like, hey, some goals I'm working on because I have to, but like, think of it this way. I don't have to be the best dad possible for my kids. I could just be a decent dad. I could say, hey, my job, I know there's especially like my dad's dad, it was like, my job is to provide for my kids. As long as I bring them a paycheck, I ain't doing nothing else. My wife does everything else, right? Like that's not an uncommon attitude, right? So I work on being the best dad because like I find joy in adding more value to my kids' lives and helping them be the best that I can be. And Sean, I have to be honest. I straddle the line of being in a scarcity mindset. Like I'm not a good dad. I'm not doing enough. I could be doing more. I should be doing more. Look at that dad. Look at what he did with his kids. Right. And then like one of my affirmations is Hal. And I often write my affirmations. This is another little bonus aside. For whatever reason, when I write to myself as if it's God writing to me, a lot of times that will have a more profound impact. And so I don't even try to do it. I've done it for so long like that some affirmations are I am committed. Some affirmations are Hal, you're a fantastic dad, right? And I think it's the areas where I struggle inside that I need someone else. And for me, I imagine that it's God or it's higher it's my highest consciousness, right? Which to me that, God, it's all one and the same. But Hal, you're a fantastic dad. Look how hard you work for your family. Look how much you love your kids. Look how you go over and above for them. Like I need that reminder because I often am in a mode of like, I'm not good enough. I should do more, on and on and on. So I don't think it's all black and white. I think you can set goals from a place of fear and scarcity and be okay, as long as you're also setting goals from a place of love and abundance and aspiration and to become the best version of yourself.
Yeah, that's a powerful one, by the way. This idea of that we need to be reminded more than we're told. We often have all of the answers. Sometimes we just can't listen to ourselves. We can't take ourselves out of that. So that's a great tip for people that have struggled with telling or being able to listen to ourselves. Talk to me about visualization because...
Hold on one second. I want to add one thing to that. I mentioned that one of my affirmations is me, Hal, you are a great dad. Like, right, me telling myself I'm a great dad. And then I gave you the 3-step affirmation formula. And then I told you one of my foundational affirmations is I am just as worthy, deserving, and capable of everything I want in my life as any other person on earth, right? Different forms of affirmations. I want to just define this. An affirmation in its simplest form is simply a reminder of something that you want to embody in your consciousness, right? Or let me say it in simpler words, right? It's something you want to remember. It's a reminder of something that you deem important. I want to remember that I'm a good dad. I want to remember to be happy. I want to remember that this goal is a must for me and I am committed. I want to remember that I'm just as worthy, deserving, and capable as any other person. These are all things you want to remember. And if you don't put them in writing, good luck, right? Good luck, And so, so I just want to remind or let everybody know that that's what an affirmation is. It's nothing more than a reminder of something that you want to be present to, every single day. And we can talk about visualization. Will you give a specific question or tell me?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've done visualizations wrong.
That was my hardest. I'm glad you're asking. That was my most difficult of the savers was visualization.
Yeah, man, it's I've done it. I've tried to do it through sports. You have like envisioning a ball going in or something like that. But one thing that I struggle with is in my life, just like, how do you go about visualizing success or health? These are kind of abstract things, right? When you can visualize, like Cristiano Ronaldo did an interview and he talked about how he visualized potentially, like he felt this idea of like a penalty kick potentially coming in, and he visualized this specific moment. And it's so specific to the time. But when I think about visualizing like long-term states that I want to be in, those are something that I struggle with. It seems very abstract. Not very specific. Yep. So how would you recommend people to do that? Because I know you struggle with it, you said.
I think that visualization, similar to affirmations, has kind of been mistaught. We're often only taught to visualize the end result, right? See the crossing the finish line of the marathon. Feel what that's going to feel like. Now, there's value to that, but it's only half of the equation, if you will, when it comes to visualizing. The value is, if you visualize yourself achieving a goal and you see it and then you feel it and it makes you feel good, right? How will that feel to actually make that dream, that goal a reality? That's going to feel good. Now you've generated a compelling emotional state based on a vision for the future that makes you want to do, okay, what do I got to do today to get there? But that is, to me, the least important part of visualization. It's important, but far more important is once okay, I got the long-term vision. What do I need to do today to move one step closer to that vision? This is where visualization, and I call it mental rehearsal, as like that to me is a synonym, and it helps me understand it better. So I'll use a real life example so this really makes sense for people. I wanted to run that ultra marathon. I had never run more than the required mile in a high school PE class. I'm like, how am I going to run 52 consecutive miles? This is, oh my gosh, I was scared. And I hated running. So how am I going to run? Like, how am I even going to train for it? So first thing I did was I bought a book called The Non-Runner's Marathon Trainer. It was specific for people that weren't runners. Because think about it, if you're a runner and you've run a 5K and you love running, well, that's a different psychological journey you're going on to get to running a marathon or an ultra marathon, right? So this book was holding, kind of like my book, hold someone's hand from, I'm not a morning person. I've never been a morning person. I don't like waking up early. It holds your hand psychologically to like, dude, oh, now I know what to do, how to do, when, okay, I'm doing it, right? And I want to just mention, there's a chapter in The Miracle Morning, it's a new edition of the book that came out in December, the updated edition. But there's a chapter called The 5-Step Snooze-Proof Wake-Up Strategy. So there's an entire chapter dedicated to how do you become a morning person to beat that snooze button. But so I wasn't a runner. I hated running. So I bought the book, The Non-Runner's Marathon Trainer. That became part of my reading, of course, right? That helped me psychologically. But here's how I use visualization. I would spend about 30 to 60 seconds visualizing crossing the finish line of the Atlantic City Marathon. And by the way, I literally printed out, I went on Google Images and I printed out a picture of the Atlantic City Marathon. So I had it sitting there, I'd look at it, set it down, close my eyes, then I'd imagine crossing it. And I was like, what's that going to feel like? To know that I trained for 6 months and I ran 52 miles. That's going to be, dude, I could do anything after that. Right? So I spent like 30, it was short, 30 seconds. Like, okay, that's exciting. Then I spent the next, I'd say 2 minutes visualizing what I was committed to doing that morning. And by the way, I had just read my affirmations right before this and affirmed all of this. And so that's what you should be visualizing, is you should visualize what you affirm. You affirm what you're committed to, then you visualize yourself. Oh, so wait. You affirm what you're committed to, why it's a must for you, and which actions you'll take and when. Then you go right into your visualization and you visualize yourself taking those actions at those predetermined times in a peak mental, emotional, and physical state. So I'd visualize my alarm on my phone, which was sitting in front of me on my coffee table in front of my couch. And I had it set for 7 a.m. to go for my daily run. I would have my eyes closed and I would imagine, I would hear it, I would see it going beep, 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 right? And I would imagine my hand reaching down, picking it up, seeing 7 o'clock on my phone and turning it off. It was time to go for the run. Then I would visualize myself standing up off my couch, going into my bedroom, into the closet, getting dressed in my running clothes. I mean, it was detailed. I would see myself shoes going on, socks going on, shorts going on. And then I would see myself walking back through my living room. I would see my hand reach out, open the front door, look at the pavement, see my sidewalk. And then I would reaffirm, I'm committed to training to run 52 miles on October 29th, 2009, no matter what, there is no other option. And I would, as I visualize the pavement, the sidewalk, I would recite that affirmation that I had just read 5 minutes before one more time with energy and enthusiasm. And I would get myself excited to go on that run. Then I would visualize going for the run. So here's how this works in real time. When, 15 minutes later or whatever it was, my alarm started beeping at 7 a.m. What human nature would have been, Sean, for all of us is, I'm just going to run tomorrow. Like, I could skip a day and one day turns into 2, turns into 3. But that's not what I visualized. That's not what I mentally rehearsed. That's not what I programmed into my subconscious mind. So what I did, almost like a robot in the best possible context, the alarm goes off, 7 a.m., turn phone off, stand up, walk into the closet without even thinking, Sean. It required almost no discipline because I was just doing what I had just rehearsed. I walked in the closet, got dressed, headed out the front door, opened the door. As soon as I opened the door, that affirmation, I am committed to training to run 52 miles on October 29, 2009, no matter what, there is no other option. And then I generated that same energy and motivation, and I went for that run. If I hadn't used visualization, and it took me 2.5, 3 minutes every day, that's it. That was the thing. Remember, act your way into feeling, like, what's his name? John Maxwell said, right? Or the tiny habits. That action of visualizing for a couple minutes generated the clarity, the motivation, the discipline that I needed, that when the alarm went off on my phone, I was like a robot and I got up and I went for my run.
Man, you just got me pumped up. I don't know. You've got a lot of energy, man. Like, I don't know if you're always like this in outside of the podcast as well, but there's something about the savers that...
No, I will go crash after this. There's something about when I'm talking about the miracle morning,
so pumped
even
up.
though I'm exhausted before, like God, whatever, it go, and then we'll hang up and I'll be like, oh my God.
I'm like, man, this guy's fired up. I love it. Well, dude, this has been amazing. Super insightful, energetic. I mean, if people are listening to this, I just know they're going to be so pumped up. So you're getting them in the right state, that's for sure. So where can people learn more about you? Obviously, you want to check out the latest book of Miracle Morning. We'll have the link down either way. No. But where can people learn more about you?
So the miraclemorning.com is the best hub for everything. I have my own site, HalErod.com, but I always say you're better off to go to miraclemorning.com. You can watch the movie. I was gonna say you can, the links to go buy the book on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or whatever. And I encourage you all, buy the book. It will change your life. I mean, I'm biased, but I'm saying that on behalf of millions of people who have read it. And 33,000 that have wrote reviews on Amazon. But if you order the book, miraclemorning.com, you can watch the Miracle Morning documentary for free. It's a 90-minute full-length feature documentary that features Robert Kiyosaki, author Rich Dad Poor Dad, Mel Robbins, Brendan Burchard, Lewis Howes, all these influencers and famous authors and millionaires, are Robin Sharma. They're all in the movie talking about their morning routine and how it impacts them and giving their tips. Then to 60 minutes into the movie, I got diagnosed with cancer, not planned on for the documentary, but the last 30 minutes of the movie, you're watching me fight for my life. And it's pretty inspiring. And then you can also download the Miracle Morning app. There's a link on the website to the App Store or the Google Play Store, or you can go directly to your phone. But it's a free app. And then there's a premium version, which you can do a 7-day trial of the premium version. It is all 6 of the savers. All of them are in one app. People used to tell me, Hal, can you create a Miracle Morning app? I have a meditation app, an affirmations app, a visualization app, an exercise app, a reading app, and a journaling app. Can you make one app for the entire Miracle Morning? And so that's what the Miracle Morning app has become. So you can watch the movie, get the book, download the app. I mean, all those resources are at miraclemorning.com.
Dude, love it. Love it. I think that's a great idea. We'll have those linked down for sure. Hal, you're awesome, man. Really appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much, Sean. I appreciate you, brother.
Awesome.